Right, so today we're talking about eating your emotions. Now, this one actually, when I started looking at it and thinking out loud, it is quite an interesting concept and how it actually works, etc. And when sometimes we're looking at food, and I've got some classic examples of this, there are some types of foods that we actually attach to emotions, or eating food attaching to emotion, if you like, as well. So there's two things going on. There is attaching a food to a emotion, as in an emotional state, and there is a particular emotion that equates to something. So let's just break that down. And I'll then give you some examples. So if I'm talking about a emotion, and I've talked about emotions before, it is a temporary state, right? So it's a temporary state, and what does that mean? It means that we can consciously choose to change that state if it is temporary by doing certain things. And if you haven't watched my live on that, do watch it. However, just to summarize very quickly, you can change your state or emotional state through changing yourself physically, or through words, or combination of both, bit of both. So emotional state is always temporary. However, rather than go to those things, which I talked through quite specifically in a previous live, what we can do sometimes is use food to try and change that particular emotional state, or equate it to a particular time. Like the epitome, I think, of this, when I say this, is the opening scenes of Bridget Jones's Diary. The first one, obviously the first one. That kind of surmises everything, really, in terms of a woman with ice cream and red wine crying to a song, and what she's doing is she's using the food in that particular scene as a way of changing her emotional state because she's been dumped, right? And that is a very classic All By Myself song. However, that's a classic example of where it actually happens in life and where we do that as people, and how we approach changing our states through food or attach it to a particular emotion. So how and why do we do this? Well, I've just gone through how we just use the food. Why do we do that? In my experience, it may be that it's something that's learnt, like most things in life, like Bridget Jones, for some examples. But you may also find this is often comes from, like most things, comes from childhood, where if you've ever had this as a child, if a parent said, "Let me cheer you up. Let me take you for get you some sweets or an ice cream." So if you were feeling particularly mardy, or you were particularly upset at something at school, where your mum or dad said, "Oh, let's get you an ice cream on the way home. It'll make you feel better." Right, and actually, what that's teaching is actually, if you have some of this food item, which is, let's be honest, it's never sprouts or green beans, is it? If you have this food item, this thing that you enjoy, then you're going to feel better. Your emotional state is going to change. And if that's something that maybe was taught to you repeatedly over a period of time, or was in fact, I don't know, just something you either experienced or did yourself, then that is a learned behaviour. And then you therefore, as you turn into an adult, you're going to repeat the same learned behaviour. So I've got some examples, right, of where we do this and different elements. So I was bored and I felt like it. So a state is boredom, which is still an emotional state to some degree. So I was bored, so I just wanted to eat, right? That's one. I was stress eating. So stress is a state. So I was stress eating. I wanted to treat myself, which is a bit like I just touched on that example. So I wanted to treat myself. Yeah, sounds like a personal favourite. I was on my period. So that's 4. I can't even count. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. Really can't count. So there's 5 examples where we have different emotions, where we try to use food to change your emotional state. Now, if I'm using the same examples as I was using in that previous live, when I was talking about emotional states, you don't, I'm going to go this way. You don't have to use food to change your emotional state. What you're looking to do is change your state through the ways in which I discussed in the previous live, which is to change your physical situation or change your thought processes. So if you're bored, solution, try something different. Actually go out, learn something, watch something, read something, change your physical state by removing yourself from the environment and going out to do something different, right? If people say they're bored, I never believe them. It's because they've got nothing to do. right? That is from an actual sense, that is boredom. There is nothing to do. So create a list of things that you want to do, a bucket list, a list of go-tos if there's nothing else on, all the rest of it. Just go to that stuff so that you can alleviate your boredom and keep moving, right? Stress, right? Guys, stress management when it comes to alcohol or food is a very high level response, right? A lot of people go to those things to alleviate the pressure. Now, essentially, go for a walk, people. If you're stressed, go for a walk, right? Change your physical state from where you are, which is usually in front of a computer or on a laptop or attached to the phone. Stress can be managed by actually changing your physical presence. Go out for a walk, alleviate that, take yourself out of the space and change your mindset, right? It doesn't have to be snacks from the cupboard. If you take a lunch break, that's the main thing. If you're working from home and you are stressed, take your breaks, people. You are actually allowed to have them, and they are there for a reason. So take your breaks. I had this as well. I didn't go through. I'm nervous. I have a lot of people. I was nervous, so I just gone for it because I was nervous. Things to do, change your mindset. So meditation, fantastic solution for things like that. So taking a walk and meditation, two great stress and nerve release. And especially if you caught my live about anxiety, then also a great way of dealing with that as well. And my favourite, I wanted to treat myself. I had a hard day. I had a successful day. I had a rough day. Had an argument with my boss. I needed to treat myself. Now, it doesn't always have to be food. Changing your state when it comes to treating yourself is, I suppose, actually a separate live on its own. If I'm honest, it probably will be at some point. To treat yourself doesn't mean necessarily treat if you are, if you end up feeling guilty for it afterwards. So when it comes to eating your emotions and using the treats or reward system, which I suppose I have actually gone through the reward system, it doesn't necessarily result in a reward if you pay for it in guilt later. And so with a lot of my clients, we go through things that they will consciously and strategically will put a reward in place. So that might be buying a dress they want to. It might be going to see one of their favourite films in a cinema. It might be heading out for a day of activity somewhere that's probably a little bit more expensive than normal. All the things that are actually treat based, and that's on a bigger scale. If you want to reward yourself for a hard day or having a rough day, treating yourself doesn't have to be food based. It could be, I've had clients do like the bubble bath situation, take themselves off for an hour to read. Again, some clients will go out for a walk by themselves or go and see friends and stuff and socialise where they can at the minute. And that in itself can be a reward system rather than always going to, it's got to be something sweet, it's got to be something cake based maybe. But it doesn't have to be food based to be a reward system at the bottom line of it. And this one, I had this one as well when I'm lonely. This one's quite sad actually. When I'm lonely, reach out, okay? Eating for comfort because you're lonely is, again, not a solution. However, it's understandable. The thing is that a bit like the anxiety one yesterday on mental health, reaching out rather than reaching for food, again, can avoid guilt later and actually help you realise you're not on your own. And finally, I love that, I'm on my period. At the end of the day, it happens, eat chocolate, it's okay. Just don't eat your body weight in chocolate and we're all good. So these are kind of where we eat our emotions and how we attach our emotions to stuff. And I think my challenge would be to anybody watching or listening to actually start to delve into their own behaviours when it comes to stuff like this, and how they actually, or how you actually, what emotional states you're in where you turn to food, and how do you actually relate that emotion to a behaviour when it comes to food, because we all have them for sure, but we all definitely have them. So it's good to understand them and see how we can adapt them so we can move forward. So yeah, there's a short one today because actually I think actually when you're looking at this, these are very specific examples, and I think all of them at some point have been related to all of us. So it's good to understand where you're at with these. So to recap then, eating your emotions, we equate food to emotions sometimes. Like it's the classic Bridget Jones' Diary, someone gets dumped they're going to turn to the ice cream, they're going to turn to the chocolate, they're going to turn to the wine, to drown their sorrows, essentially. So sometimes we relate food to those emotions as a way to fix them or change them, when actually there's other solutions we can look to rather than using food all the time to change an emotional state. It's certainly learned from my experience, and it's learned through either being rewarded as a child or then rewarding again as an adult, and affirming that actually food is there to actually change how you're feeling about life, when actually it's thinking outside of that. And then again, it's very bespoke to the person. So all these solutions are just some general ideas, but actually it is always about specifics for a client in these situations, I found. So I went through some of them and then discussed a little bit more. So when I feel like it, because I'm bored, I'm stress eating, I'm nervous, I want to treat myself, I'm feeling lonely, I'm on my period, all those kind of states that we all get into, which creates... So Kate saying, is it okay to eat a large Toblerone? If it's large, I'm assuming that means the diddy ones, the little mini ones. Yeah, the little individual ones, Kate. Yeah, just one of those. Let me bring it back from the camera so it's appropriately sized. This big, Kate. Yes. Yes, you may have one. So all these examples of times it happens, and I talked about previous live, when changing your emotional state is to use other avenues other than food. So physically changing or mentally changing how you talk to yourself will do that. So it will change your emotional state, right? Because it's always temporary, and we prolong it sometimes with food. So if you're bored, try something new. If you're stressed, take a walk, start meditating. If you're stressed and have got some nerve issues going on, treat yourself with something other than food, guys. There's more out there in life, I swear to God. And it's interesting, actually, as I know when I started exploring this myself as a client, it's so amazing to think of all the other things that I thought of that I'd like to do and never did for myself, because I always rewarded with food. Hence why I ended up being a client, right? And if you're lonely, reach out, right? It's all about breaking your emotional state with something other than reaching for food, right? So I hope you have a lovely evening. I will be back here again tomorrow at 5. Never fear, I am here. Until then, enjoy your tiny Toblerone, Kate. Just having a tiny one, and I will see you tomorrow.